Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the 2nd December podcast and our second video podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm here with Ranger Liz.
Hello.
And Lich Lord Bryan.
Hello.
Nathan, grab the ice dragon.
And, we apparently forgot to decorate our table.
We were trying to record a game and we ended up failing to do so, and now we're trying to put stuff back on the table.
Alright. So, I will be talking first this week, and I will be talking about, actually continuing my series on the Arctic Adventurer, and I will be talking about, now, monsters for cold weather. Ways to both send chills up your player's spine and to make them appreciate the cold. So,
would that make them appreciate the warmth?
That too.
You should probably appreciate the warmth.
Well, to appreciate the warm weather.
Or
I'm gonna
at least long for it.
Yes. I'm going to start us off with Privateer Press's Iron Kingdom setting with the Monsternomicon. This is a recently released book for the Iron Kingdom setting and role-playing game. The creature I will be talking about, though, is one that can be adapted to a lot of different game settings. And that creature is the Pistol Wraith. Now, the Pistol Wraith is a dead pistolier who has come back as a vengeful spirit. The Pistol Wraith is, it is hungry for vengeance. It is armed with 2 pistols, and it is looking to kill.
Well, they're not always armed with 2 pistols. The Crix one is always armed with 2 pistols, but...
Well, the Wraithlock pistol, I believe in here, is mentioned that it is...
Well, there's options in there for the for dual pistoling.
Yeah. Well, the picture displays a guy with 2 pistols. So.
That's because what Crix has a tendency to use.
Yeah. Now, pistol wraiths do appear throughout the Iron Kingdoms, but they appear particularly in areas that have a strong dueling culture, like Leal and Khador.
Yeah, they're usually formed by people who lost duels. More often than not, with another pistol wraith.
Yeah. So, again, this is a great creature that can be adapted to a lot of settings. Mainly because any setting that has guns, you can have a pistol wraith, and it'll work. Now, you might not be using necessarily the Iron Kingdom stats, but you can definitely use the lore.
Yep. Yeah, I like pistol wraiths a lot.
Yes.
I play the army that in the tabletop game that fields them. So.
Yes. Of course, one of my favorite tricks for dealing with things hiding behind cover that have a pistol wraith in front of them is target the pistol wraith with something that scatters.
Yeah.
And fire away. So, next creature I'm going to talk about comes from the Bestiary 4, and it is the Outer Dragon Lunar. The Lunar Outer Dragon is a tricky, shimmery dragon whose body almost appears to be made out of moon silver. This is an excellent creature to use in any setting where you deal with things that come from beyond the stars or from the stars themselves, or where you have a moon god. Their bodies appear to be made of moonlight themselves. They can be found on page, 66 of Bestiary 4 or on the Pathfinder free online source material. Just a dangerous dragon with a cold breath weapon that is sure to appear in a moonlit night, full moon, out on the snowfields where the moonlight is just reflecting off the snow. Beautiful place to put one.
So the solution to dealing with those things is blow up the moon. Got it.
We gotta blow up the moon.
What is this, Dragon Ball Z? Or Exalted?
Whatever.
Wait. No. It was the special beam cannon that blew up the moon.
Okay.
Now, the last creature I'm going to talk about comes from Exalted. It is a type of beast man called the Wolfman. Now, in Exalted, the beastmen are created when a lunar impregnates an animal, or while the lunar is in animal form, impregnates a human.
What? I'm sorry. I was paying attention to you, Katie.
Yeah, I had a feeling. So anyway, wolfmen can be loyal and staunch allies, but they are also savage, wolf-like creatures that are natural fighters and killers. Chances are, you can definitely use this creature as some sort of antagonist in almost really any setting. Even if you don't have Lunar Exalted, having a wolfman who isn't a werewolf, but is full-time, all the time, in that hybrid wolf-human state.
Privateer has something like that too, the pureblood warpwolf.
Yes, the warpwolf, exactly.
The pureblood warpwolf.
Would be, just something that would be terrifying to face, particularly if you had a whole village of them. And it's something that you can definitely use as an antagonist because they would pick on and prey on a human village. For all kinds of different reasons.
Yeah.
So, the Wolfman can be found in the Exalted Core Rulebook for 2nd edition. And first edition, I believe.
Will it be in 3rd edition, or don't you know yet?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
They have not exactly shared everything that'll be in the antagonist section, but,
Come on, just release an index.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be harder to do, because if you move stuff around, you can't really release it yet. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they do have the layout in draft form right now.
Yes, but that could easily shift things by a page or two.
Yes.
And you don't want... Well, you could just release the index with everything saying it's going to be at page XXX.
No, that's what they would do if they were going to end up releasing in April.
Okay.
As an April Fool's joke.
I've seen companies do that.
Yeah, it'd be both a great spoiler and a good joke.
I love Privateer stuff when they release stuff that's heavily redacted.
Yep.
Honey, I miss you had to stay on my lap.
So, with that, we come to our Lich Lord Bryan. What do you got for us this week?
What I want to talk about this week is, for those of you who actually pay attention to the NFL, it's Week 14 in the NFL, so a lot of people who play fantasy football, like myself, are either entering the first round of their playoffs, or they're,
Honey.
or they are in the last week of their regular season. The league I'm in, we're in the last week of our regular season. And basically what I want to talk about is just why I enjoy fantasy football. It's a fun experience while you're watching the NFL, while you're watching the games, although it does lead you to bouts of rooting against your team, because a guy you have on the opposing team, you want him to score a lot of numbers. But for those of you who don't know, it's basically you pick a team of NFL players, and you're relying on them producing good stats over the course of the NFL season. So if your quarterback is Rodgers or Peyton Manning, on any given week you have them in your starting lineup, you want them to throw a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yardage, no interceptions, and just basically perform well. My team did not perform well this year. Guess that will happen when your number one pick loses the entire season for assaulting his child.
Yeah.
Yeah, my team busted this year. It's still enjoyable though because, well, even if you don't make the playoffs, there's still usually playoff games for the teams that aren't in the official playoffs. Plus, there's a lot of fun leagues you hear about. Well, not necessarily fun. ESPN always does an advertisement about one fantasy league. The rules are if you come in last, you have to get a tattoo that the winner of the league picks. So you don't want to come last in that league. We don't do anything like that. In fact, we actually don't play for money. The league I'm in, we just play for fun. But it's fun setting your lineup. It's fun figuring out which guys you think are going to perform well. It's fun trying to see which guys are not performing well for you, so you cut them. It's also slightly frustrating when your entire team fails on given weeks. I actually hold the record for our league of the worst score ever, despite the numerous amount of times we have had people just completely drop out. My team somehow scored worse than a team that wasn't even starting their quarterback. Yeah. That was a bad game. But the fantasy football in general is just fun. You can play for money. I know there's a bunch of 1 week fantasy leagues there you can earn a ton of money on. I haven't played in them yet. Probably not going to play them this year, but it's just a little bit extra. Gives you a little more motivation when you're watching the games to actually watch them, keep track of them, and gives you that one extra thing to enjoy about the NFL season. So I like fantasy football.
All right. Well, thank you, Bryan.
They don't play fantasy football. They barely watch sports.
I don't like football.
Ranger Liz, what do you got for us?
Alright, well, for this evening I kept thinking, what was I going to talk about? And I bounced around with several ideas, like my favorite winter zones in video games, but for that I'd need to do some research. In fact, I might actually do a mini video for it.
Okay.
And then I was thinking about, well, maybe some games I've been playing recently, but I haven't really been playing many games recently because I have had schoolwork to do. On top of that, I wasn't feeling well for a couple of days, which is why, even though I have Leveling Fun recorded, I did not get it up because I did not feel well enough to actually edit it. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up to this week because of exams, but the following week I'm hoping to make up for the fact that I missed out by getting up at least 2. And then, so I was bouncing around with ideas, and I was thinking, well, maybe I could talk about D&D Attack Main, but then I thought, there is a game I have been playing, and that would be, I dabble in World of Warcraft, and the newest expansion had come out, and that is Warlords of Draenor. And I kind of would like to talk about one of the first main zones that you're in when you enter Draenor, along with you enter along with the garrison, which I think is a very nice add to World of Warcraft. But it's I'm going to find it interesting to see exactly, after a while, how certain materials do in the auction house, if it's going to drive down the cost of certain materials, because in my garrison I can mine for the materials that I need, or I can have the mining materials mined up for me. Same thing with herbalism, I can have some of that stuff. But I decided, since I'm a leather worker, I want all this leatherworking stuff. And that's been really helpful. I've been able to start making some armor for my hunter. And I find that fun. But I like, I normally don't like winter zones. I usually absolutely hate winter zones. Because I very easily turn off that suspension of disbelief, or I can suspend my disbelief very well. That's what I meant to say. And so I feel cold, and I hate feeling cold whenever I play a winter zone. And this time around, I didn't really feel that cold. In fact, I really enjoyed that first area. Rage, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the quests that were out there.
Same here.
I was enjoying the quests out there. I enjoyed meeting Dorotan and his wife. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name right now. I kind of remember part of it, but not enough to try saying it. And I enjoyed being able to send people out on quests.
Yes, I have.
I kind of think that's fun. It's like, I have more important things to do. You go take care of that, and I'll go continue on with the important stuff. So that's been kind of fun to get, because some of this crafting stuff requires a lot of materials. Well, you make it for me. So I've been kind of enjoying that. I don't like the fact of how much limitation I have to making stuff by myself, though. But at the same time, it's like, well, it can be made at the garrison, and I can go off and do quests instead of having to sit there and grind my crafting. So it's going to be interesting how that continues to play out, and if they continue to keep this. But Frostfire Ridge, beautiful zone for a winter zone. I didn't feel cold. I liked watching how, when I moved through the zone, how I kind of seemed to... Because they've added interactions with, like, grass and stuff, and I kind of feel as though there was more interaction with the snow and so forth as I was moving through it, and it felt more... I felt like there was more there to it.
So, with that, I'm going to move us on to our question of the week.
Before we go on to that, I do want to amend my answer for last week's question. I put a little more thought behind it, and part of the reason I didn't think of this last week is because we haven't played 4th edition in a long time. But 4th edition had the Sword Mage class from the Forgotten Realms setting.
Yes.
And I love the Sword Mage class. I loved it. They combined the magic and the swordsmanship. I love just all the options you could do for Sword Mage. So, I'm altering my answer from last week. Sword Mage is probably my favorite class. Simply because it had the amount of fun stuff you could do to it. And particularly my favorite one, by using the Sword Bond and be able to call the sword to you, combined with other magic items that allowed you to teleport your armor away. You could basically be anywhere and within a moment be fully armed and armored, ready to go.
And I would like to also say that there's a class I think I left out that I enjoy. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite, but, it's a class I think it's a lot of flack, and I am always willing to stand up and go, no, I like that class. And that's the Bard.
Okay.
People pick on the Bard. The Bard's a good class. Stop
People
picking
don't
on the
understand
Bard.
the Bard.
No, they don't. Sometimes they might not be the most useful fighter, but they can still be a very useful character because they got a lot of knowledge.
They do. They are a support class, through and through.
They're a versatile class.
They are.
So you have a new question for us?
Yes.
Or is it Brian's turn?
I don't have a question.
Oh.
Yes. So, the question for this week is, last week we talked about D&D. Actually, for the past 2 weeks we've talked about D&D. I'm going to shift us over to the Iron Kingdoms. And I can already see Ranger Liz having to adjust her thinking.
Yeah, because it's not a bad system. I enjoy the system. It's just not my favorite genre.
And who was your favorite character when you were playing the Iron Kingdoms RPG, and why were they your favorite?
My favorite character I played?
Your favorite character that you played. This one actually might be the hardest for you, Brian.
I never get to play the Iron Kingdom setting. I always have to DM it. From the few times I've actually played the Iron Kingdoms setting, I did have a character, a gun mage character I played when using the 3.5, the D&D 3rd edition rule set for Iron Kingdoms. That was pretty fun. It was a nice versatile character. And plus, being the gun mage class in and of itself was just kind of cool.
Yeah.
You cast spells through your gun, so it was a fun class.
We actually have, if you can see it on the wall there, a picture of a gun mage that was played by Ranger Liz.
No, I didn't actually get to play her. The game was canceled before we even started.
No, we died in like week 2.
As far as I know, the game was canceled before we even started.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
even
that
remember who
oh yeah,
played her.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played an Iron Kingdoms campaign where where the DM kind of flaked out and decided to TPK us on the second session.
Yeah.
I think it was Iron... Yeah, it was Iron Kingdoms that we played. Or was it Elza?
Elza.
It was Elza. Yes. I think Elza was my favorite, and it was because of the roleplay that went on. I got very much attached to the character.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about Elza?
She was an archaeologist, something. What was the other? Mage?
Arcanist.
Arcanist. Okay, so she was an archaeologist, arcanist, and liked teaching other people, along with other stuff. But really, it was more the... It seriously was the roleplay.
Yeah, no, that's what I want you to tell us about. Is tell us some about the roleplay.
Okay, so the roleplay that really put in effect is the interaction between her and her pupil. Her pupil was a street kid who had a horrible past, very horrible past, and she was trying to get through the shell to get to this child to give her a future, because at this point she's kind of showing that she really doesn't have a future going for her.
Yeah.
And her goal is, this might not be a safe job, but I think it's a job you'll love. And trying to get this kid to understand, you need, when you go into these dungeons, you gotta look around, you gotta experience being in there. And the kid just, she kind of has a bit of a cocky attitude to her at times. Other times she just doesn't want to listen. So these interactions that I'm having with the other player's character and so forth, as they're getting through and they're going through all these different trials, and finally they have an understanding and they almost build a mother-daughter type relationship. And then I was literally crying when her
the other character died, yeah.
Dying. Yes. So, that still was very painful for me having that happen.
As for myself, I think one of my favorite characters was in the last Iron Kingdoms game I got to play in. He was a Warcaster knight, but he was a paladin of the Order of the Wall before Gods and Kingdoms came out. So there was no Paladin of the Order of the Wall class, or no Paladin class. So I just used Knight and filled in from there.
You did pretty well at it.
Yeah.
Good approximation.
Good approximation. Pretty much the Paladin is just a modified Knight with slightly different abilities.
Yeah.
But he was very dedicated to protecting this city and to protecting civilization and order. Even though being of an unpopular religion, he knew that he would not be necessarily accepted for his faith in this town.
Yeah.
And could actually be run out of town for it. He still, though, when going into battle, proudly displayed his faith. At other times, he, partially kept it hidden. If anybody asked him about it, he would have just casually said, "Oh yeah, I happen to be a Menite," if they asked him.
No one really cared, and I
Nobody cared in that particular town.
The only religion I played up, because I was the person running that campaign, is your party had a benefactor who was slowly revealed to be a Thamurite, which made your character a little awkward working. But because I think at one point you actually had to rescue the Thamurite from members of the Order Illumination. So... And, of course, you ended up chopping your arm off rather than succumbing to a Doomreaver blade.
Yes, that was also another thing that I liked about my character, is that he did have that, pride about him and that noble bearing, so that when he was faced with the temptation of the Doomreaver blade, rather than realizing that he could succumb to it, but also realizing that he would need two hands to wield it, rather than allow himself to succumb to it, he lopped off his own arm so that he could not be put in that temptation again.
Yeah, that was good.
We now transition to... anything you guys have your eyes on?
I'm still trying to figure out, before we started, I was trying to find, because I've tried looking before, and I thought, I'm going to give it one last shot. And then I ended up looking up other stuff. But I was trying to find the release dates for any future waves for D&D Attack Wing, but I haven't found them yet.
Searches for stuff, too. I tried looking at for video games, but I'm kind of a little bit, out of... I'm not really enthused by the AAA gaming industry right now, so that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And I tried looking for some, like, if any interesting card games are coming out. Apparently they're coming out with a Batman version of Love Letter. So, okay.
I needed that. It's Batman.
I mentioned them earlier that they're releasing an expansion to the card game Kittens in a Blender. There's a second edition of the Doctor Who card game coming out, but really not a whole lot. Most of the stuff, if you look at look on Cool Stuff or Board Game Geek, and you look at their release dates for things coming out in the future, it's just an endless stream of expansions.
Yep. Only thing I've got for this week is Exalted 3rd Edition is moving into the developers implementing the final edits, and then it'll be the art people are saying that only 2 or 3 final drafts for the art are coming in now, but I don't know if that means that they're nearing the end of art that needs to come in. That about a quarter of them have been approved by the by CCP, so
stuff that's updating. I keep thinking, I should probably do because you guys were thinking about me doing a review on the RPG Dragon that is still in alpha, but I'm still hesitant to do so because one thing to bear in mind is they're pretty much making updates every week to it.
yeah.
Alright.
So it's kind of hard for me to say something because by the time I get it out, there might be a change and what I said is no longer relevant.
Yep, because alpha.
Because alpha. I'll show that kind of stuff probably in the upcoming weeks, but they've been adding new mobs and stuff. They even added a new area, or expanded the area, but it was...
And so, I believe with that, we will bring this week's podcast to a close.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I don't.
So with that, we will see you all next week, and just remember...
Don't kill us for PCs.
Yay.